He was very kind and hardworking, and he was an excellent father.
Bobby was one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. He was the best dad, definitely, a hardest worker, very loyal to his mother. He thought that she absolutely hung the moon.
Bobby was humble and kind. He was caring. He was loving. He was the most wonderful son that I've ever experienced. Of course, he's my only son, but I can say that not just because he's my son, he just was loved by so many in our community, in our industry, and just loved life.
You know, you couldn't have asked for a better brother. He was an amazing person.
If it hadn't been for Bobby, I think Chad would have probably lost his life. The day of the accident, I was on call. I took it. I was dispatching, and I dispatched Bobby out on that call that day. It was a semi broke down the side of the road that needed towed. So I sent Chad, our heavy tow truck driver, out to hook up to it.
I got dispatched out to pick up a disabled semi, commercial vehicle, and he threw his driveline out. And when I got on scene, I noticed it had punctured a hole in the fuel tank. So I called back to dispatch and told them it was leaking fuel, and we needed a cleanup crew to come out and clean up the diesel. And so about half hour later, Bobby showed up on scene, and he had Zach Phillips with him.
Chad gets on the scene, starts pulling the driveline out. The fuel hose was busted, so fuel went all over the highway. And they called for a cleanup crew, Bob and myself, to go out there and clean it up. We're in there for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I get a call to do a fuel delivery a few miles ahead from where we're at. And Bob decided to stay and help Chad out, any way he could.
I was under the truck releasing the brakes and stuff, and Bobby was directing traffic because we were between the guardrail and the white line. The shoulder was real short, real small. So I was under the semi, crawled out, and walked over to my wrecker to grab the air lines and the light cord so I could get this truck off the side of the road.
My son was directing traffic to keep Chad safe, and Chad was taking out airlines out of the tow truck toolbox, and my son was behind that toolbox directing traffic over, which I understand that most of them were going over until this one particular truck just would not move. And by the time he had any time left, he yelled out at Chad.
I hear Bobby yell, "Look out," and I turn around and look, and I see a semi veering towards us. And so all I could think to do was to turn around and duck into the toolbox I had open. So I just turned around and leaned back as far as I could in the toolbox, and as I'm turning around, I seen Bobby go running towards the front of my wrecker, and like not even seconds after that, there was the semi, and it hit the door that was on my toolbox that was open and missed me by like 6 inches.
Within just a step or two, he was almost clear of being hit. And supposedly his pant leg was caught on the bumper of the truck that hit him, pushed him, put him airborne, and hit the mirror of the truck. And then what happened was he came down and landed on pavement, and all the tires of the truck ran over him.
I honestly thought I wasn't, I was waiting for that truck to hit me, and then when it just hit the door, all I heard was the noise of it hitting the door and glass breaking. And as soon as the trailer passed me, I went running to the front of the truck to check on Bobby, see if he made it, and he didn't make it.
I'm about maybe a mile away, if that. Chad calls me and tells me that Bob just got struck by a truck. And the way we used to give each other a hard time, I figured they were just with me. And, you know, I sat there saying, oh yeah, right, you know, shut up, this ain't, you know, don't mess with me like that. And I was expecting to hear Bob's laughter or something in the background, how it always was. And he told me about 3 times, and it finally clicked, and I was like, I'll be right there, I'm not even a full mile away. And pulled up on the frontage road and ran up the hill, jumped the guardrail, and I was right on top of Bob.
That was probably one of the worst days of my life. Chad had called me and told me that Bobby had been hit, and I kept telling him how bad he hurt, and he says, he's hurt pretty bad, he's hurt pretty bad.
It was a Sunday afternoon, and my mom called and she said, Shanae, now I have to tell you something. And I said, okay. And you know, when she says that, I automatically know there's a problem. And so she said, I have to tell you something. I said, okay. She said, your brother's been hit by a truck. And I said, okay, but he's alive, right? And she says, yeah. As far as we know, we don't have a lot of information, but he's alive.
I kept calling Chad, and he kept telling me, I don't know, Judy's got a pretty bad gash on his head. And Chad's pretty kind-hearted, and he didn't have the heart to tell me exactly what had happened. So I went to the hospital thinking that the ambulance would meet me at the hospital.
I had called my dad, and I told him what was going on. And I told him, you know, Bobby is not at the emergency room yet. And so if he's not here yet, it's probably not a good sign.
I waited there at the hospital for a little while, trying to keep in contact. And one of the girls that works out there, a night nurse, I've known her for years, and she come and told me, she said, Judy, the ambulance is coming in empty. And I knew what that meant. And that was so hard to call Bobby's mom, my boss, my best friend, and tell her she'd lost her son.
My mother-in-law called and told me, Shanae, I talked to the nurse, and they said they're not bringing anybody.
You know, you have a million questions when you get out there, and you try and, you know, here I'm talking to Linda on the phone, and I can't answer the questions that she needs to hear because they won't answer them for me. And it was an uncalled for accident. He should have just moved over, slowed down, done something.
The law came to me 2 days after my son was killed. My attorney had informed me that we, as tow truck operators, were not first responders and that we weren't protected on the highway from being hit. And so I said, that can't be. I said, that just can't be. You need to look into it. He said, I have. And I said, okay. I said, we're in the middle of legislature right now. And I said, I got this, and hung up. And keep in mind that my son's we haven't even had the services yet. And I am on the phone trying to figure out why this bill hasn't been initiated or passed for the tow truck operators. All first responders are on this bill, except for the motoring public with hazard lights and with tow trucks. So I just went into, no, we're going to do something, and we're going to do it good, and we're going to do it fast. I decided that I was going to start calling politicians, and I was going to promote awareness for us in New Mexico, for all towers. My demeanor was, I can do this. I just can do this, and I can do this with strategy. And so we started with Tow Lives Matters. We started with that. Then my daughter put it on Facebook on how we were trying to get this bill passed before the legislature was over. And we networked it. We networked it through towing companies all over the United States.
Linda said that she would get this passed. She done it in a record amount of time, something that's just never heard of here.
We started just calling people and telling them, we need you to call. We need you to call the governor's office. She needs to hear our voice. She needs to know that this is important, that she's our only hope.
They had hundreds and thousands of calls, and not just from New Mexico, but I mean from everywhere.
When that finally came to pass, I believe that we had several representatives that were very strong about it and allowed that to keep staying in the House and the Senate.
She worked miracles to get it done. The contacts, the people she called, it was just a relentless thing to get Bobby's Law passed. 12
hours, I think, is what it was before we didn't think we were going to get it done. And Governor Susana Martinez, she just came through. I believe that the awareness of the spirit right is going to connect, and it's going to connect through our nation and through our industry. And we're going to have people that have the same hope I have and take on the same journey that I have, because it's not going to go unforgotten. It's not going to be forgotten. We can't allow it to be forgotten, and not just because I've lost my son, but this is truly an epidemic that needs to be either slowed down, and for me, I'm hoping that it's not taking another first responder, another tow truck driver.
If I could say anything to the people watching this video, I think I would say that those extra few seconds that it would take you to slow down or move over, those few seconds can change lives. Those few seconds, they may not mean much to you, but they mean a lot to the families of the people that are on the road working.
And if you could say anything to Bobby, what would it be?
I love you. And I thank him for everything that he did and that his life is continuing to do, because I know that his story will help to save lives.